Hey, y'all. So, John and Amy here. What is happening to me?
Oh,
welcome
my goodness,
to the call.
Right?
So, we're going to really just kind of share with you a little bit of the journey and what we see coming. We know that people are going to filter in here, and we know that it is a Sunday evening close to Christmas, but that's okay. This is a good time as well as any, because this is recorded, and we're looking forward to just sharing what we see coming and what's happening currently. And that's why we said, what is happening to me? Because many of you know and have been feeling things that you haven't felt before. So when you jump on, I'd love to have you put in the chat window or in the comments below on Facebook. Type in what you've been feeling, what you've been experiencing, what kind of emotions have been coming up, because a lot of people have been feeling this around the world. Like, what is going on? What is happening inside of me?
Yeah, and we definitely want to roll out. I've got like 21 spiritual awakening symptoms that I think a lot of us are going to be able to relate to, and we'll unpack some of our own personal stories that we've been experiencing that, and then also really break down authenticity, because that's really, this awakening is helping us wake up to our pure authenticity, our original blueprints. There's so much going on, and that's why it just feels so combobulated. We're just like, oh, we feel like a bobblehead. Our whole body feels like a bobblehead being, because just so much is being dismantled, disrupted, everything that's not the original design, the trueness of who we are, as you guys well know. So we're going to talk about the definition, I'm sure you guys know, of authenticity. We could all rattle off what authenticity is, but basically it's a matter of being real and genuine and staying true to who we are and who we serve. What rings true to you, right? What resonates.
Yeah.
And for a lot of us, our resonating has been so bogged down and numb that we've kind of lost ourselves over the last decades, or living in the 3D world. And that is why there's so much unearthing going on. It's like God and the angels have gotten down under our roots, and they are tilling everything up, bringing it up to the surface for us to look at, giving us, because we have a free will, the choice, saying, are you ready to let go of that? Because that's a weed, and that's getting in the way of your development. We're turning up the soil so it's rich for you to thrive now, but let's let go of these things that have entangled you and locked you in, or have been sucking the resources dry away from you. And so as we come into this place of authenticity, oh man, you just feel so empowered and alive.
We do, and really, okay. So she's going to share some of the ascension symptoms, because there's a lot of them, and I think we'll get through a few of them to see what's going on. But the reality is, guys, is that this is an authentic awakening that we're in. We're being authentically awakened. And what that feels like is different for different people. This is a worldwide humanity awakening that we're in. It's not a religious one. And if you're waiting and looking for a religious awakening, then it may be a while. I know that there's pockets here and there. Yeah, there's pockets going on here and there where God is moving, but a genuine awakening means that you're going to have these ascension symptoms going on. You're not going to understand it. And we're going to unpack that a little bit for you as to why you're feeling those things. But what's happening with humanity is we're moving 18 inches down, dropping into our heart and our spirit. And God is helping us with this, and it doesn't look religious. And this is what's tripping a lot of Christians and believers up, is because they're looking for something to happen in the four walls of the church, like a
Yeah.
Brownsville or some other kind of move of God. That's
Ego will look
Yeah.
for something that occurred in the past with a little bit of newness to it. And because it wants to be able to still be in charge and be able to control something, right? So
Yeah.
it's being aware and mindful. Wait a minute, if we're looking for something that had happened in the past, because our ego needs to fill that grid of knowingness, then we're missing it, you know? And so when it's unknown to us and something new, as you guys know, then we're tuning into the spirit. Your heart, your body, your spirit is always tuned into the new. Remember, even scientists have proven this. All your brain has is just the library of records of the past knowledge and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So if we're relying on reason and logic to show us the awakening or any of this, and we're attaching old names to it, like, oh yeah, the next great revival, or it's the end times, or it's all this old stuff, then we're missing it. We're being actually distracted by a program or a pattern or subconscious thinking, because the little ego is so sneaky. It still wants to be able to place its claim. And when you only have eyes looking through those lenses of reason and logic, you're automatically already zeroing in on what you think you should be looking for. Whereas, when you're led by the Spirit, God does things in the most unpeculiar way. I mean, look at all the examples of Jesus healing people from blind eyes. Would anybody ever thought of dipping their hand in mud, putting it on the eye, and say, okay, go rinse it off, now you can see?
Exactly. So this whole thing that God is doing, he's actually helping us. And because what's happened in the past is that we've had little pockets of things take place, and they've been effective in some way, but not really effective at all in other ways, because what it's done is it's kind of singled people out, and it's caused more division than it's brought people together. So say, for example, you have a move of God or an awakening or a revival, whatever you want to call it, in a certain city, in a certain group with a certain denomination. Well, what about all the other parts of humanity? What about the other denominations? What about the other parts of the ecclesia or the church world, whatever you want to call it?
What about your
And then
cousins?
what happens there? So does God favor somebody else because they prayed their brains out more? Or, we got to really look at these things for what they are. And although a lot of great things are happening in different pockets and different areas of the world, what we see happening in 2024 and beyond is we're being authentically awakened internally, individually, and collectively.
Yeah.
What does that look like? What it means is you're experiencing certain things. You're experiencing frustrations and anger and numbness and depression and all of these, quote, negative things, right? But it's because your spirit is actually expanding. The growth of love is expanding inside of you because God's breathing on that or moving in that and growing us, because he's sovereign and he's good, and he doesn't want us to get caught in these pockets anymore of division.
Right.
And so what he's doing is he's expanding us with the mind of Christ, and our egoic center, the part of us that's been leading the show egoically, spiritually egoically, and in the programs of our conditioning have been leading our lives. And we've been going, God, where are you? Put in the comment box there in the chat, say, is that you? Is that me right now? Do I feel that? Like, do I feel like I'm crying out to God because I'm so frustrated or feel a little lost? Where are you, God? You're in good hands.
Yeah.
You're in good hands, because there's people all over the world experiencing the same things.
That's
and their
right.
ascension symptoms that
Yes.
she'll go into in a minute.
Yes.
But I wanted to say is that because we're moving, actually dropping into spirit, we're moving beyond the ego. The ego is edging God out, EGO, edging God out. But it's really the small self, if you want to call it that, that part of us that's wounded, that part of us that needs more love, that part of us that was traumatized in our youth, and it was conditioned by a parent, it's conditioned by circumstances and situations, and that part stunted. Okay, and that part is what's crying out in survival. God, where are you? What's happening to me? What's taking place? I don't feel like anything's happening, or Here's a good one. I'm bored in church. I'm super bored and I don't know what to do. Is there something wrong with me? Is there a demon attached to me? All those religious kind of things that are happening in our minds. And all the time, the kingdom is expanding. Where? Within you, within me, within her, within entirety of humanity. The kingdom is expanding. Remember, the kingdom came in on his shoulders and it's been increasing ever since. And so, what is the kingdom? Love, joy, and peace inside, intertwined with God in relationship. And so, when he's expanding that, our egoic mind is going to freak out and say, hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. Your ego is going to say, I'm not giving up power. I'm not giving up control. I'm not giving up the leadership of your life, of my life. And so there's a war going on, Galatians 5:16 through 23, right? It's flesh versus the spirit. So you can look at the flesh as the same thing as ego. So ego is trying to lead the show, and God's saying, I'm helping you now. I'm helping you authentically awaken to your authentic self so that you can be you without the covering of a ceiling. Hear what we're saying, okay? If you go to a wonderful church group, if they're empowering you, they love you and you love them and everything is just wonderful, then awesome, okay? What we're saying is you're going to hit a ceiling, though, of a institutional situation, if it is an institution, and you're not going to ever be authentically true to your own self and what God's designed you to be. It just won't happen.
Yeah.
And so God is taking people into different arenas and realms and situations to dismantle that egoic side of things so that your spirit can actually drive the car.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. And so it's amazing. You know, with the Lord, everything is circular, and it's also these expanded layers. It's the ripple effect. And so at the core level of our authentic selves, we're rediscovering who we are. We're eternal beings. We're not just the small story of John and Amy. We're actually eternal beings. And then rippling from that, it's all of humanity. The whole planet is waking up. We're waking up into our authentic, original blueprint. So what has to go, right? What has to go? All these man-made ideas and restraints. Some of them were really good. Some of them were supportive. But at some point, the training wheels have to come off and you got to ride the bike, right? You got to ride what it was actually designed for. Otherwise, the potential's limited if you keep those,
That's right.
the little wheels on the sides there. It ends up being really uncomfortable. Same with a t-shirt that's too tight fitting or a shoe that's too tight fitting. You outgrow it. And so many of us have conditioned ourselves to dumb ourselves down and to accept that, oh, I'm just supposed to feel this way. If you're in a certain relationship, or you're in an organization, religious or organization, you're told, well, no, that's normal. You're supposed to feel that way. And so we get brainwashed into this smallness and small thinking, slavery thinking, all under the name of false humility, all this kind of stuff, where when Christ came to bring the good news, he was constantly mirroring to us our true identity. Say, hey guys, it's, you said it this way, it's been done this way, but I say, you've always done it this way, but I say. He was changing the paradigm. He was changing the focus back to the kingdom, back to our original matrix and blueprint of who we are. He didn't stop at the cross. Why did we stop at the cross? Because the ego, we stay in this poor me. If that is the loop and the conditioning, because think about the time during those Roman times, it was survival to the hilt. So it's like this vibrational matching of what you can relate with, of just the slavery, the sonship, the horrible crucifixions, and all these kind of things going on at the time. And it's like, you want to move forward into what Christ came into to bring, the authenticity of who we are in the glory state. And so the authentic part about the symptoms. Let's get back to that. There's 21 spiritual awakening symptoms we want to talk about. So as John was saying in the chat, see if you guys can kind of relate to this. So first one, you feel disconnected or detached. So, okay, so in the workplace, in the church, in your family,
Your
uh,
friends, your relatives.
because you start thinking, you're like, I'm not connected so much to this
Yeah.
way I've been thinking,
Yeah.
or something sounds off in the teaching here, or I don't think I like this smallness feeling anymore, or all this fear, teaching coming at me. I think we're bigger than that,
Yeah.
or there's something beyond. Like you literally feel like you're hitting a ceiling, right?
Yeah. And here's where let's look at this a little bit. You're feeling like you're isolated now, and we're going to keep this high level, okay? Because we love the church, guys. We're going to say this. I don't know how, until we're blue in the face, because some people misunderstand where we're going. What's happening. We've been labeled New Age. We've been labeled, everything under the sun. It doesn't matter anymore. Who cares? But the point is that we want to be clear on what we're saying. Is that we've been. Let me just say this as a caveat on the side. We have been out of the scenes for a little while because um, we've been ascending ourselves, and we've had the ascension sickness that has been intense. But we know that this is what God's doing. This is where we're headed. This is where we're being led. And some still anchored into that egoic side of things, especially religiously, will just say, hold on a minute, this is beyond my grid. It's like Jim Carrey in the movie the Truman Show. Okay, if you've seen the Truman Show, you know exactly what we're talking about. It's like some people don't want you to ascend.
Yeah.
Some people don't want you to win, right, Kim? Some people don't want you to win.
Yeah,
They just don't want you to move forward. They want you to stay in their same egoic circles. They want you to stay small. And if we do that, then we won't break out of the false matrix, which is this illusion that Jim Carrey was in the movie The Truman Show. And he starts waking up and he's like, hold on a minute. Am I in a box? Am I in a bubble?
Right.
Am I in this false matrix of a living situation here?
Of programs.
And I'm starting to see these programs running in everybody else. They're starting to, they're cookie cutter. They're saying the same isms all the time. And yet I'm stealing and seeing something different beyond the four walls. I'm seeing something different beyond the matrix. And I'm being labeled now. I'm being cornered and trying to be boxed in. And you remember in the movie, he's like, he tries to get away at every turn. And he is like, wait a minute, I'm waking up. And I have to separate myself. So I'm feeling separated here because I have to get alone to figure out what's going on. Not figure it out, that's egoic, but get alone to allow the Spirit of God to speak. So when you're feeling this aloneness, it's okay. It's not a demon, okay, guys? It's not a demon taking you and separating you a little bit, so that, because if you're a prophet, if you're a genuine kingdom prophet, let me just say this, okay? Not a religious one. If you're a genuine kingdom prophet, you're going to be the scout that goes ahead of everyone else. Doesn't mean you're better than anyone else. Doesn't mean that you're special. We're all special. Okay. It just means that you have to go out and be the spy in the land to say, what's going on? Because this over here ain't working anymore, honey. Yeah. It's just not working. So, and that's not being critical. That's not being judgmental. It's just not working. When your car has a red light on the dash, is it a red light on the dash? Is it not? Is something not working? We have to be honest about this. It's not working. Okay.
There you go. Authenticity is honesty.
It's honesty.
I mean, come on.
With some compassion and some juicy kindness splashed in between.
Yeah. And isn't it interesting, you guys? When we're waking up, whether we're in the system, whether we're in the workplace, God always sends in that prophetic voice, or that voice of calling, that voice of clarity, to say, heads up, it's the real place is out here, kind of like on the Truman Show. So the girl that he wanted to date, and all of a sudden they got rid of her really quick because she's about to tell him the truth, but she finds her way to trying to keep speaking truth. And those who have ears to hear start seeing it and waking up. And like, oh my gosh, she's right. Where she's considered the outcast or the enemy or dangerous. How many of you guys been labeled that because you're trying to let people know there's a real world out there than the box they've been living in? But it is amazing, huh? So pay attention to those little birdies, right? That are coming into your life trying to let you know, instead of allowing, oftentimes we've been taught into religion to poo-poo if somebody brings some truth or some nugget that doesn't fit our paradigm at the time. So it's easy to just write them off as, oh, they're listening to lying spirits. Oh, I don't know about that. That's too much for me right now. And instead, they're trying to bring you up to the next place of expansion. And so it's so important, isn't it? Like Bruce Lee said, we got to become like water, be fluid, hence paddles up, be fluid to float in the current of where God's taking us. Because you know him, he is never stagnant. I mean, he will take you as fast as you can go in your expansion. We're the ones holding it up most of the time. So anyway, so that is number one on an ascension symptom.
Okay, and one other thing, because it's like leaping up.
Good.
When you're ascending a mountain of any kind, okay, there's some talk about ascending mountains and all that's been going on for a while in the church world. And when you're ascending a mountain, though, and you're in a line of people, you're going up Everest, tall mountain, you go in a line, okay, and somebody's in the front. There's a couple people that are in the front right behind each other, and they're watching out for each other, looking out for each other, but they have to take in oxygen at certain altitudes. It's called altitude acclimation, and then you get altitude sickness if you don't acclimate. So we're in an acclimation period right now where we're taking deep breaths. We're taking it in, and we're taking in the oxygen of heaven, the oxygen of the spirit, so that we can expand, have the capacity in our lungs to make it the distance. And so you're going to feel isolated. Like, where are all my friends? Where did all my friends go? Mm-hmm. Where did all the peeps go that were right with me? Why are they falling off? Why are some of them dying off and sliding down Mount Everest? Why what's happening? And so then you start looking at yourself, if you're egoically inclined to, because you've been conditioned so long to look at the inadequacies and the insecurities. That's what a lot of religion teaches. Look at the weakness, focus on the weakness instead of how wonderfully, powerfully beautiful you are.
Right.
And then we look at that because we're feeling not so good about ourselves. And they're like, what's wrong with me? Am I the Lone Ranger? Am I the one that's in rebellion? Am I the one that's rebelling? Yeah, maybe my pastor was right. Maybe the bishop or the priest or the prophet or the apostle was right. Maybe I've got issues. Maybe I've got issues. Maybe I'm the King Absalom. Maybe I'm the King Jesse. And all of those religiously low vibrational things that go on. And I tell you, some of that stuff has done more damage than anything else that we could ever see in the church world, is slapping a label like that on somebody that's hurting and that's trying to get their oxygen. Can I get a big, fat, non-religious amen? Somebody say it now.
I know, right?
Right? It's like, what is happening?
Yeah, what is happening? What is happening is we are ruling out our spiritual impulses for another religious cloaking to come on us that's keeping us held down from our growth and stagnant. When did we lose? Guys, you guys know this. We have been talked out of following that intuition in our gut so many times in religion land. And when all along the Lord is leading us out, he's leading us out to the next place, but we've got all this backfire coming towards us. Don't you dare leave. Oh, you're going to lose your anointing if you leave. All these threats. And if we will again.
That's for the workplace too.
Yeah, go back.
I'll tell you a story about that.
Yeah, it goes back to the work. And again, when we're talking about religion, it could just be the leadership of the current building. You know, it all comes down to leadership, doesn't it? Whether it's workplace, whether it's a church, whether it's a family home, it all comes down to leadership. Then the culture of it, right? But we're talking about authenticity. And not losing that authentic personal walk you have with the Lord when he's leading you forward to your next growth chapter. And we're letting all these cloakings like Saul on David stop the flow of what God's telling him to do that will bring him into his victory, right?
Yeah, and that's going to look completely different than anyone else. And what's happening is that when you start ascending, when you start expanding and growing, because like she said, it's cyclical, it's circular. In Hebraic culture and in God's kingdom, it just expansion. So you never really go backwards. So there goes the backsliding thing out the door. It's you're in a cycle, you're in a circle. And all you do is when you make a mistake, you get back up and you're expanded because you've learned something, you've seen something, you saw the contrast. And so you're being expanded and you're being expanded, you're being expanded because you're made out of the same substance of heaven. You are love, you're made out of love. And it can't help but grow like yeast. It can't help but expand because love expands. Love covers a multitude of everything, right? And when that happens in your life, it's kind of like this, because we're into health too, which is super important right now. God's speaking to everybody about health.
Yes.
It's like this: when you start eating good, when you start eating healthy, what do people that you've been used to hanging around when they eat all their junk food, what happens? They don't want to be around you. And then you're like, well, I want to separate myself too, because this is too hard looking at the greasy pizza that I used to love. It's too difficult looking at those food items. And I'm growing, I'm expanding beyond the egoically low frequency vibration of those foods.
You're becoming conscious.
I'm becoming consciously aware.
Take care of your earth
So
too.
I'm waking up and I'm going, okay. So then it automatically, God helps us. He's good with this. He helps us and he separates. The thing the thing we should not do is go running back and saying, why are you leaving me, pizza? Why are you leaving me, friends?
Oh, just
why are
one
you
more
leaving me,
bite.
family? Can I just have one more hug? Can we just love bomb me again? Love bomb me again, because I'm feeling
I'm
little
addicted.
unstable here, and I'm addicted because my conditioning keeps wanting to go back. It keeps wanting to go back to that religious cycle. It keeps wanting to go back
To
to that security blanket of what I've been used to. And see, when we break out of the false matrix of anything, guys, anything, whether it's workplace, family, like she said, when we break out of there, people are going to look at you, first of all, and say, okay, anchor you with us. We don't want you expanding. We don't want you going beyond these borders, because if you do, that's going to make me look bad, because I'm not ready to give up the pizza. I'm not ready to give up this cycle, this cyclical egoic cycle. See, you have an egoic cycle and then you have an expanded cycle in the spirit. One is greater than the other, but oftentimes the ego wins out because we've been so programmed and so conditioned to believe that this is it. And if we have somebody that we look up to over us, whether it's a parent, a boss, a bishop, or a pastor, or whatever,
that you don't want to lose relationship
you don't want to lose relationship with, and you believe that they're hearing God over you. Look, many of them don't even have time to hear God for you. You know what I'm saying? And I'm saying that honorably. Okay, I'm just saying that's the truth. We're expecting them to hear God for us. And what is that? That is that middleman. That is that mediator. That is that person that stands in between the veil's been torn, guys.
Or we haven't done the work ourselves of building that relationship with the Lord. Now, granted, you guys, I mean, we both operate in the prophetic gift and have given tons and tons of prophetic words. So it is a gift, right? It's a gift to bless the body of Christ. But you yourself know when you're copping out on your own spiritual development because you want somebody else to do it for you, or you're having a hard time and you're confused and you need somebody else to hear. So now you're going to go off of what they say. But, it's fine to get a word, but make sure that it's resonating with your spirit and you just don't go off of what anybody tells you, because remember, they've got their own verbal grid that they're giving you that word through. So you may hear it completely different than they implied, as you well know.
And they're prophesying at a paradigm level. They have to filter through the programming and the conditioning.
We were having this conversation, remember, with our friend Rosemary, where she's like, gosh, what do we do with our prophetic words now, where we're at now? You really start rethinking. And that comes into number 2 on the ascension symptom is you're reevaluating your beliefs. When you start going through this awakening, is that not like, oh my gosh, how many, right, you guys? We start reevaluating all our beliefs,
our BS,
like what we've
our
been,
belief
the
systems.
BS, what we've been taught. And does this ring true to God's nature?
Yeah.
Or was this man's idea to, quote, keep me in the church or keep me out of hell, or, all these tactics, right? These manipulative tactics. Not all, right? Not all, but our beliefs. And okay, so let's put outside of the church, right? We're rethinking our beliefs. And same with, how about upbringings? The revelation, knowledge, and truth is coming out like crazy in the science field about our subconscious and conscious, and about how we're so wired. Our hard drive is wired in the first 7 years, as I'm sure you guys know. And the only way to change it after that point is through repetition. Hence what the scripture says about memorizing and renewing your mind, the mind of Christ, and all these things. It's a repetition where we have to take every thought captive. And a lot of us growing up, we didn't know, it was besides us. We didn't, we had sloppy thinking, and we wonder why things are happening to us. We didn't understand the power of our thoughts creating reality.
Oh man, this is huge, you guys, for going into this next year, going into the future, is that when you're feeling all of this stuff going on, you're like, what is happening? I don't understand it. This is all part of this, it's kind of like, okay, when you look at 3D, 4D, 5D, some of you have heard this, some of you haven't. Let's explain it real quick. 3D is the world we can touch, see, feel, taste. It's what our anatomy touches.
Dualism.
It's our body, right? And this is what the 3D world is that we see. Then the 4D is this ascension beyond the ego. We're starting to move into this place towards 5D, which is spirit.
Heaven
okay,
culture.
And that's heaven culture, and moving all the way into that. Now, depending on who you listen to, depending on what you see, you'll see different opinions on this. I just like to say it like this, is that we're kind of in that 4D arena where there's the muddy waters have been stirred up inside of us, meaning that I'm recognizing, because I've become self-aware, I'm recognizing what the ego has done to me. I'm recognizing the program. I'm recognizing how wounded the ego is. I'm recognizing and seeing and becoming awake to the point to where I see what the conditioning has done to my life. And we're no longer blaming demons. We're no longer blaming that person that screwed us over 10 years ago, or that relationship. So we step back within ourselves and we're like, okay, I'm going to become the third person here and looking in on my life. And then this is kind of the 4D arena that we're in, going, okay, it's kind of muddy waters. I'm getting these symptoms. I can't see very clearly right now, but I know that God has not left me or forsaken me. And I know that I'm ascending. I know that something's happening, because here's how you know that you have grown and expanded, is by what pours out of you when you are not feeling like meeting with your friend. You're not feeling like going in ministry. You're not feeling like going and counseling with somebody, but what comes out of your mouth is depth. And that's what's happening, is your heart and your spirit are bypassing now the ego, because the ego has been put in the back seat, and it's loved. It's not killed or disintegrated or destroyed like some would teach, because how can you destroy a part of yourself? Okay, so what you're doing is you're wanting to heal and integrate the egoic side of you, because that is the wounded side in the soul, the mind, and the emotions. Okay, so when that starts, when you keep sending love to it from the real you, the spirit you, the authentic you, keep sending love to it, then what happens? You begin to see more clearly, and then you begin to see the false matrix for what it is. You begin to see beyond the four walls of institutional domination and control. And then you're like Jim Carrey going, okay, there's a big wide open sea out there, and I have a sailboat, and I'm going to get in that sailboat no matter what. It doesn't mean we're leaving the church, okay? It doesn't mean that we're leaving people unless those people are being separated from your life. We know that we all are the church, okay? But it's not a governing body right now. It's not governing with love. It's not quite there yet. It's still in its diapers, okay? So we've got a while.
It has the overlay of the false matrix,
That's right?
You've got the original matrix, which is, we came from God. We came from, he's our family. We're sparks of life and light from him. We came into the earth to co-create. We're all one family. There wasn't any of this separation, segregation, all these different denominations and religions. We were moving together as one. And this is what we're waking up out of, is that overlay of this false matrix of separation, my people, your people,
My tribe, your tribe.
my tribe, all the just all the divisions.
Yeah.
And we're waking up again. When you wake up, you start seeing that, oh my gosh, everything's connected. We're all connected. We're one big tapestry in God, moving rhythmically, and we're having to start getting everything start moving and syncing up together. And this is why we're upgrading in this frequency level, moving out of 3D, 4D into 5D, to where we're syncing up. We're all the sons and daughters of God moving, being led by the spirits. Like Christ said, you'll have no need that any man teach you, for I'm in you. We're all listening. We're tuning in. This great awakening is people waking up to their spirituality, that they're beyond this false matrix of being controlled.
It's the same way with government. It's the same way with workplace situations. It's every arena of life. Some people are waking up out of relationships that have been in out of obligation.
Right.
And we'll just go there for a second. How about we go there?
That's right.
Waking up out of a relationship they've been in 22 years. Been in there 22 years, and you've been staying together because, after all, you heard so many people tell you that God hates divorce. Okay, you need to look at that in context. Yes, because of the damage it has the potential of doing, but what he was really addressing there is the Jewish people just casting their wives away for any reason, just because they were irritated.
They couldn't remarry. They couldn't even work and make money. It was horrible. And anything they didn't like, they just threw them away.
Like trash.
That's what he's talking about.
Yeah. And so when you look at Romans 7, Corinthians 7, if one wants to walk away, let them walk away in peace. Now, I know that's easier said than done, because you may have children involved and all that. But guys, if God is if one is ascending and one is anchoring in that relationship and is really stubborn and it's making life hell with abuse and everything else, and you are feeling everything in you to go, well, then who's to say anything about that? That's between you and God, right?
Yeah.
So we're just saying that on the side. So much of religion holds us captive to things that people in leadership have no clue about, right? You're the one living that storm.
That's right.
You're the one living in that hellish nightmare. And who is anyone to condemn? That's what, again, between you and love, you and unconditional love.
Yeah. And speaking of unconditional love, remember, you guys, that doesn't mean that you have unconditional tolerance.
There you go.
See, there's such a key. We have bought in to this thing. Well, I need to be more loving. Oh, if I'll just be more loving, I need to be unconditional love. I need to be the good saint in the family, even though he's abusing me or she's abusing me or whatever. No,
gaslighting you.
No, narcissistic relationships.
Love bombing you.
No, do not have this unconditional tolerance. No way, you guys. There's wisdom.
That's what being authentically awakened is about. Is this we're being authentically awakened to see it for
reevaluating your beliefs.
And I tell you what love really is in a situation, in a relationship, whether it's in the church world or workplace. Love really is looking at yourself and saying, I got to take care of me. I need to take care of me right now. In order for me to be love to someone else. Love others as yourself. Right. That is not being egotistical. That is not being selfish in a wrong way. It is being selfish in a good way, because what you're doing is you're taking care of your temple. You're taking care of your emotions and your mind and doing the inner work, allowing the inner work by the Holy Spirit to take place. And so all of these things are happening all over the planet right now. And people are thinking it's the devil going to toe with God. It's like
he has no opponent.
It's like they're equal opponents. Are you kidding me? It's like at the end of the times, what are we going to say? Is that the one that was deceiving the nations? Is that little guy over there? That little thing? Seriously. And so when we're talking about dark shadows and entities and all of that, what happens is when you ascend, you get these ascension symptoms. The dark things cannot breathe that oxygen. So they're going to fall off.
Yeah, they're going to stay in the low frequencies.
It's like the story about the rats in the plane, right? They know, pilots know that to kill the rats off, if they find a rat inside,
it's about to eat the wires.
It's about to eat the wires. pull up and ascend.
The oxygen
Kill
levels.
that dark sucker off, right? So it takes care of
Ascend.
itself. When we ascend, we don't have to rebuke the devil 100,000 times. Okay?
Yeah.
When we ascend, it just takes care of itself. The light turns brighter. We have a halo light in front of us right here. If I turn that light brighter, you see it automatically, and it takes care of more shadowing. So it's when the light gets brighter, it takes care of the shadows. It's not our effort, it's effortless. And so the more we ascend, the more effortless flow and effortless ability takes place, and we ascend into the tree of life. We move past the false matrix of the tree of knowledge, which is hard, laborious toil, sweat and toil. Here's for all you business entrepreneurs out there. Are you operating in the tree of knowledge, trying to gain more knowledge, trying to do more work, trying to sweat it out more to get business and to get money? Or are you ascending in the tree of life where it's effortless, and let the power of heart-centered living and movement and inspired action take you all the way? And that's effortless.
Yeah.
So
it is effortless.
Where are we at now? We're on.
Well, it is effortless. And I was just, it's coming to me too about just obligations, back to the whole relationship part, and just in any area, workplace, religion, family, this obligation thing. This is another thing we're reevaluating our beliefs on. And when you're coming into your true authentic self, there's a cry within you. Like, why am I living in this false identity out of obligations now? And remember, God himself told Israel, I am tired of your sacrifices. I don't want your sacrifices. Yeah. What I want is a pure heart that loves me. And so it's the same in relationships. When God looks at marriage, and he looks at a true, genuine relationship through his eyes, it's spirit, soul, and body. It's not this written agreement, so to speak, of obligation by word alone, while your heart is far from him, while your heart is far from your mate, right? I mean, look at the parallels there with God's relationship with Israel and our relationship with who we're in relationship with. So again, this authenticity and awakening is just getting very down into the nitty-gritty of the heart, right? So we are reevaluating our beliefs on everything.
We are.
Back to its original, pure, authentic, childlike, honest design.
Yeah. And here's for all those that have questioned anything. We're just going to say this loud and clear about us. That's like, what happened to those guys? We saw a couple of comments before, and it's kind of hilarious in a way. It's like, what happened to John and Amy? Did they just fall off the grid? Did they go into deception?
We were in surgery.
Did they go into the new age?
We're in the new era.
And let me just say this. We are more in love with Jesus than we could ever have been in the past. I mean, it is a deeper, more relational, profound, non-religious juicy ship situation. And it's so amazing when you start ascending. It's so amazing when you move beyond the control, when you move beyond the matrix and you see it for what it is, and you're out in the wide open skies and wide open seas of possibility and interaction, relationship, and encounters. Then you see Christ in you for who he really is.
Yeah.
And he has zero religiousness in him. Remember, he was the new age to the old age system.
Guys.
Okay. Now let that sink in for a minute and move past the hairs standing up on the back of your neck going, did they say Jesus was new age?
Oh yeah.
Tilt.
He was new age to them.
He
brought the new age of the kingdom.
That's right.
He was bringing, you guys, the New Testament. New Testament. New to you.
Well, thank you, Tracy. I look bad. That's for Amy.
Hey, and it's so good to see you guys on here.
Yes,
all of you.
Thanks for
Sean, the
joining.
mom.
Good to see
Arrow,
you.
all you guys. Tracy, me and Kim. So
thanks for your comments too. They're amazing. Yeah. I love that. We need to be disillusioned. There's an illusion in the ego that tries to run the show and says, I'm going to make you run on past programming and past cycles and keep you looping.
Yeah, Truman Show,
and
Truman Show.
I'm going to make you live in the past or begging for the future, for a better tomorrow. And it's an illusion, guys, because the only time we have is here and now. This is it. We have right now, the eternal now, and it's the best place to be.
Right.
This is why we often say those that are in business, those are moving in entrepreneurial things, or creatives, and they're moving into a venture. We say, don't have a business plan. Just throw it out the window. Your best business plan is right now, here and now, and let it unfold. Let the next moment, let the next step, let the next idea.
Oh, you guys.
Unfold. This is why scripture says, don't plan to live in a city for a year. Don't plan on saying I'm going to go here for a year or there for a year. Don't be so, one translation says, don't be so sure
that you know what you're going to do today or tomorrow, right?
Yeah. Don't be so
gosh. Look what Solomon figured out, right? Oh my goodness. So, but yeah, so you guys were wondering, where did you go and all that? And honestly, we have been walking through our own ascension symptoms and just, but a few years back, God told us, he goes, look, I am calling you out and opening you up to the sea of humanity, and you can handle it. And that is what God has been doing. He's just
it's been fabulous.
Expanding our hearts, because, I grew up in the church, and John, for the most part, did too. And it's like, that's your whole world, is this box you grow up in. You grow up with all the people, they're all your family, your extended family. And that's the doctrine and teachings. And a lot of it's so good. I have great memories, and a lot of good things happen, but that's like all you know. And then when you're taught this us and them mindset, like believers and unbelievers, all this separation, or I'm better because I know Christ now and they don't know God yet, and so we are raised in this thinking, and then that gets dismantled, and you see humanity that's waking up and spiritually inclined, and they're seeking God, and maybe they call God source right now, or the divine. God has so many names. He's hearing their hearts, you guys. He's not concerned that they're calling him source or the universe. We should be so excited, because it's baby
that they're even
steps.
thinking.
It's like, oh my gosh, right. They're not stuck in their ego anymore, where they're solely relying on themselves. They're actually seeking a higher power. They're actually curious to want to know where they came from. And what's so great about them is that they don't have all these ties and bindings of what we got put on us in religious thinking, where we have to go through 100 protocol checks to make sure something's safe so we don't get deceived. We've lost that intuitive connection with spirit, where God lets us know authentically. You can taste. He said, taste the fruit, right? You can smell, you can tell, you can feel. And that's another thing we were taught out of, is feeling. Don't trust your emotions. Don't trust your heart. And these are all science is proving, right? We think and decide with our heart. And there's our body knows, it has sensors in it to tell when something's safe or not. And so there's this expanded awakening up to humanity as a whole. Our heart has just broadened, and we're like never before, like, oh my gosh, it's the whole world. The whole earth is growing into maturity, and everything is alive. Everything is connected. And so, and it talks about this in the awakening symptoms, as this is what happens. The small self starts dying off.
Yeah, it starts unraveling, and then the small self, the ego, starts healing, because now your spirit is swelling, your heart is expanding, and the unconditional love is flowing in such a way that it starts spilling over and healing the ego part of us that's been conditioned, that's been hurt, that's been traumatized and wounded. And then it starts to integrate. See, we don't want to, like I mentioned before, we don't want to kill off the ego, because that's the thing, that's the survival mechanism that's keeping a lot of people going right now. It's what served its purpose for a little while, but now when we wake up out of it, what's been leading us and the programs that have been driving us, then we're like, oh, okay, well, maybe little Johnny hasn't been paid attention to when he was traumatized at 7 years old. Maybe he needs some more healing. And then we go through things like sozo or living streams or heartstrings or heart streams or whatever, and we go through all these streams to get healed, but yet our ego is still leading. And so we're like, oh, okay, what do I do? But when you clearly look at this for what it is, so you don't have to keep going back to these streams, is like, oh, wait a minute. Okay, I am ascending because the kingdom is expanding. So that's true. That is 100% true. It's ever expanding. So where's the kingdom? It's in you. It's in me. It's in her. It's in all of us. So it is expanding. So what's going to happen as it's expanding? By osmosis, by just the way it's expanding, it's going to touch those hot spots in our wounded self, and it's going to highlight when we become self-aware as to what those things are. And when we see them for what they are, then we can go, oh, okay, I'm going to sit right here and receive the healing from Christ within. I'm going to receive the healing from my spirit and Christ, and let it heal that side of me.
Yeah.
And then when it heals
fearful.
a little more, then you ascend a little more, and then you have to have the oxygen to acclimate the ascension. You're breathing in the oxygen so that we become the Christ in the earth. We become like Christ in the earth. We become that expression in the earth without the religiosity attached. See, that's authenticity at its core.
And you think of too, the ego oftentimes is that disconnected protection, kind of like the leaves, the kind of like when Adam, he took the fruit and ate it, and all of a sudden realized he was naked, and so he's pulling all these things and fig leaves and stuff on him to protect himself, and so that is the cutoff. That's the ego trying to protect yourself aside from God. And when we get connected back up and remember who we are, that we were never separated, that we're totally connected, we don't need these fig leaves anymore. The Lamb came on us, right? That was all picturesque of the Lamb, Christ in us, restoring us back. And you remember, oh, I'm connected. I don't need the ego to protect me anymore. Thank you, ego, but you can resign now, you know? Yeah. And so that's really where it comes from, is it's that self-protection. And we have to choose by letting our spirit rise up and say, it's okay. It's okay. I don't need you now. I remember who I am. I remember I'm connected. I remember I am protected. I remember I am powerful. I remember all things are possible, in him. So, but anyway, another amazing thing too is that your dreams are more vivid. So when you step out of this clearing, you break free of a lot of these false identities or things we were trying to live up to in either the work system, the church system, whatever it was. And it's like what happened with COVID, right? Everybody, the jobs stopped, their identities got put on hold, and like, oh my gosh, who am I?
I can't go to church anymore.
What was my original dream?
What do I do?
And so again, the sifting and clearing, and now you have a time to actually sit with yourself, forced to sit with yourself, and new dreams start percolating up. And also your dreams that you dream at night start getting clearer. Yeah. So, and then another thing too is you experience more synchronicities, more deja vus. If you're frequently experiencing mind-blowing synchronicities, like thinking about someone randomly and all of a sudden they call, the connections are starting to get clearer. Like for us, we started seeing numbers all the time, angel numbers, 333. I can't tell you, you guys, 222 all the time, 111, 1111, 999, 555, 333, 444. And every day we're seeing them, and it's amazing. And we celebrate it because God is speaking to us through it. 555 is the number of Christ. It means change is coming. 999 is the completion of a cycle in your life. And it parallels with what you feel in your spirit. 444 is letting you know you're on the right track. Your angels are protecting you. Same with 222. Stop worrying. Life, work balance. Everything's working out for you. There's just so much encouragement. Why do we limit God on how he speaks and how our angels want to speak?
Because
so creative.
a lot of people think that's new age.
Right.
That's why.
Right.
And it's like, the new age may have been onto something. Okay. Yeah. And so what you do is you look at these things and you study them. And it's the true north in you or it's not. You feel, again, we've been so buried with this conditioning and the hurt and the trauma that goes along with it,
or fear,
that we can't feel anymore what the spirit is feeling, what the spirit is saying, what the spirit is moving upon. You have to feel to know what moves inside of you.
There's a resonance.
And I know why people say this, and religion especially, is they say, don't listen to your feelings, just go by the word of God, go by the scripture. Okay, let's break that down a little bit. And I know people mean well in this, but what they're really saying is I'm fearful at my core.
I can't trust myself.
I can't trust my spirit and Christ in my spirit. So I have to go get a scripture because it's been buried by all of this conditioning. And so I don't even know that I'm being led by ego. I think that I'm, wretched man that I am. They're always living in the wretched man that I am. I do those things that I don't want to do. And then I don't do those things that I want to. All this confusion going back and forth. Why? Because we're vacillating between the ego and the spirit, the flesh and the spirit, the ego and the spirit. And most of the time, we don't even know how buried we are underneath the leadership of ego, edging God out. We do not know that. And so when we start waking up, then we're like, wait a minute, Christ in me is actually leading me. He's my covering. And when you say things like, well, Christ is my covering to a egoically inclined anyone, then what they're going to say back to you is, no, you need man to cover you. You need man to cover you. And it's all based in fear, you guys. I said this one time to a friend of mine years ago when we were being led out of the religious matrix. Again, I'm going to remind you, we love the church. Yeah. We love community. That's healthy community. Okay, so make it back.
Remember, Christ was addressing the false matrix.
Right. So this friend of mine, I said to him one day when we were being pulled out in 2003 and awakening, and I said to him, I said, what would happen if you could no longer go to church? Like, what would happen? Like, say you were a missionary and you were in a jungle somewhere and you couldn't have a Bible and you couldn't go to church. What would you do? He goes, well, he was like, it was his full tilt.
Program malfunction.
Full tilt. He's like, I don't know what I would do. I don't know. I need my Bible. I need to go to church.
I need the accountability.
I need the accountability, John. And then he looked at me with that, that look, like you're,
don't go there.
Don't go. You're deceived, brother. Oh, I see the demon coming into you right now.
Danger, Will Robinson. Danger.
I'm gonna have to go get somebody, or I'm gonna have to start casting. Get the oil, Bertha. Get the oil, Bertha. So then I said, well, could that really could that happen? I mean, it could, right? And he goes, well, I'm not a missionary. It wouldn't happen. I said, could it happen for somebody? Well, yeah, I suppose it could. Okay, what would you do? You would go within, wouldn't you? You'd go to the Christ within. You would go to your relationship with God. You would go into the Word of God stored in your heart.
That's only if you've awakened, though, because if you're programmed, that you got to be dependent on a church system or a man or something else.
The Word is Jesus.
There's no hard drive telling you you're allowed to.
Yeah. So anyway, and I say that we're kind of joking around a little bit, but look, truth be known, we said some of this stuff to other people too. I remember when we were first coming out too in 2003, being led out, we went to this home church, because that's kind of the progression, right? You go from leaving institutional world, then you go to a home group, and then you find out everybody's wounded. Nobody wants to lead there.
Yeah, it's a pendulum.
Then it's a pendulum. Right? And then you wind up going, I'm bitter, I'm resentful, so I'm going to swing way over here and go take 14 shots back in the bar or whatever your vice was. Okay. We understand that, and that happens. But we were going to the home church thing, and I went up to this guy that was very tuned in, and he's a genuine prophet. And I said, who's your accountability? Like, you're having this whole home
program kicked in.
And said, who's your accountability? And he looks at me with genuine tears in his eyes, like tears were streaming down his eyes. And he goes, listen, when you get that religious devil off your back, you'll understand it quite clearly. In other words, when you have your eyes open, and when you awaken, when the scales fall off your eyes, and when you awaken to the real you, the authentic you, and you see it for what it is, then you're going to see what I see. And sure enough, down the line, we have a relationship with him still. Sure enough, down the line, we saw it for what it was. But you can't see what you can't see in your blindness in the time. You can't wake somebody else up. it has to happen authentically.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you can't, as much as you want to wake somebody up, it's not our job to try and
Right.
fix them or awaken them. That's God's job.
And this is another awakening symptom, is that you actually, it says you realize everybody is on their own personal journey and their own personal path. And I can't tell you, when we got this, it was so relieving because, in religion land, we are taught, go win souls, go win souls, go win souls. That's your mission. Go be the evangelist, go to the mission field, go tell the whole world the Great Commission, all this stuff. And not sitting back and being led by the Spirit. We were led by our spiritual egos or good intentions, and not realizing, wait a minute, there's seasons here. You can't just go pick an apple that's not ripe. You can't just go catch a fish that's not ready to be caught. You even Christ, he took his time. He was led by the Spirit. And so it's allowing people to be where they're at on their journey, and knowing that God will lead people in your path, and he will prompt you to speak into them. You don't have to be under this obligation of evangelism.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're
man-made.
doing more damage than good sometimes, because that's turning them off because they're not ready for it. And so again, when we're more tuned in and we honor and respect people, I can't tell you how many times, you guys, and I know we've been well intended, because we're like, oh, I want them to experience life in Christ like I have experienced of freedom. And so we go in with good intentions, blasting our Christian music really loud so the whole neighborhood hears, or through the drive-through, or we're talking really loud at the counter at the check stand with our friend, or on our cell phone about the miracles that took place, and totally asleep to the fact that we are opposing on other people's space for disrespecting them. So how are they supposed to hear you when right off they feel disrespected
and offended?
You're just
completely offended.
Yeah.
And then you'll hear the other side where it says, well, yeah, the truth offends people. We should offend people. It's like, oh Lord, what about the fruit of the Spirit?
Fruitful, right?
What about
service,
kindness, and love?
Mm-hmm.
What about waiting for that prime moment for them to be brought right in front of you, and then Christ within gives you the words to speak, or not to speak, or the hug, like the ex-Satanist.
Just thinking of that.
The ex-Satanist, that's the video went viral a while back here, where it was the Christian lady that came up and just gave him a hug, and it changed his whole world. He couldn't stand Christians because
so many things I was mentioning, and way beyond that, right?
Yeah. And we're saying this obviously, guys, in general, because there's every situation is different. Maybe God leads you to do something, but we're saying is, let's lift the obligation off.
Right.
Let's lift that whole religious thing off, saying that if you don't win souls, you're going to fry in hell, or if you don't win souls, you're in trouble with the head grand poobah or whatever. So what we're saying is, we're lifting it off. We're taking it off, because I tell you what, if we'd have heard somebody tell us this years ago, it would saved us a lot of pain. And we're saying this under
and
unction.
The people we talk to.
Under unction, that you are free to be authentically free. You're free to be you. You're free to go and do what God has called you to do. If you wait around, if you know that God's calling you to do something and you wait around for approval, it may not happen, because what if you're entrenched in a situation, God bless their hearts, where you have egoic leaders around you that don't want to let go of you no matter what. And whether that's work or in religion, whether it's in the church world or it's in the workplace. What if they're saying, no way, I'm going to let go? Underneath, they wouldn't say it out loud, but they're thinking it because they have need of your gifts, talents, and abilities. This is where we see burnout happen. Okay. Volunteer, come on, join the children's church. Even though you're not called to it, even though you don't have it in your heart to do, come on, you're being a poor sport and you're rebelling. Let's cast some devils out of you so that you can come and be a part of the children's ministry.
Yes, we need your free labor.
I love what Joyce Meyer said a while back. She goes, look, you put me in the children's ministry, I'll kill those kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's just being honest. Like, some people aren't wired for that. And this is where honesty comes in. Thus, one of the first ascension symptoms is you get brutally honest with yourself and everyone else, no matter the cost. No matter the cost. We realize that this video, that this live, and those that we will do throughout 2024 may cost us some more friends. But hey, if it does, It does. We'll gain so much more because of where we're headed, where we're going, where we're finding so many people out there, guys, that are just like this, that are looking and they're searching and they're feeling like they're going to die. Both of us almost had nervous breakdowns in the institution. And is that God? I mean, is that really the end goal here, is to give you a mental breakdown because you just can't do the work, sweat, and toil under the tree of knowledge anymore?
Or
You just
repent
can't do it.
1,000 times a day. I mean, oh, the amount of shame. When we felt God calling us out, our nervous systems were so freaked out because of so many threats coming from the leadership, and because they didn't want to lose our gifts, they didn't want to lose the what we walked in, or some of them were good intended because of what they'd been taught. Oh, don't go out past this sheepfold, or whatever.
Don't go to that meeting, you'll get deceived.
We'd lose our anointing. We were told all these kind of things. So can you imagine? And so I did have a meltdown. I couldn't stop crying. I couldn't breathe.
I was really concerned.
Anxiety like crazy. My nerves were shot. I didn't know what to believe anymore. I just had to go through this time of just metamorphosis, but it literally felt like death, because again, these are layers of the awakening. You're reassessing your beliefs because your spirit's telling you one thing, but all the logic and all the programming you've had from your upbringing all the way up to this point is yelling like a blowhorn something completely opposite. And within you, you have to go against that grain, and it's making you stronger. But it's the law of lift, isn't it, you guys? With the plane can't go up higher without that. It's just that law of lift. And
it is.
So
it really is, you guys. And so we're hoping this is helping. Put in the comments, if you would, just say, hey, I felt some of the same stuff, or yes, this is what I've been experiencing. Because I guarantee you that this is happening all over the world right now with people, but to give voice to it, I think, is super important. And we're willing to go there. We're willing to pay the price to go there because we understand that there are so many people in this situation and they're stuck because they don't want to go backwards, right? Even though we really can't, but meaning going backwards into a institution that almost killed us, right? Yes, it was great in many ways, but if you look at the core, it's meant to keep us small, you guys. And again, we're not talking about healthy communities here.
Right.
We're talking about the institution at large.
Right. With the ladder to climb.
With the ladder to climb.
With the jealousies and threats.
Oh, the worship team madness and all of that, So what we're talking about,
yes, Rosemary,
moving into being deconstructed. There's all kinds of terms for it. Dismantled, deconstructed. We're looking at examining our BS, our belief system. We're examining it at all levels, going, okay, what do I really believe at my core? Because I kind of lost myself here in the false matrix. And so when we move beyond that netting of the false matrix, and we're out in that sailboat like Jim Carrey was in The Truman Show, you're starting to feel something you haven't felt before. Maybe when you first knew about Christ and you were like this totally ravished in love person, head over heels with him, and you felt like, oh my gosh, everybody in the world should feel this. We're starting to feel that outside of the false matrix, and you're going, how much freedom is actually ours?
Oh my God.
And so we're not talking about compromise.
You're getting so much power back. It's amazing.
Yeah, and there's no such thing as compromise, by the way. When you drop 18 inches down into your heart and you live out of your heart center, your heart core, out of your spirit, there is no compromise. You're more in love with Christ. You're more in love with life than you ever have been in your entire life, right? And so when we're moving into this new phase of this new era that we're in, this awakening that we've been in, then you begin to come more alive because you're becoming authentically true to who you really are. And we're talking about that in the natural, and we're also talking about that in the spirit. Do you know how freeing it is to talk like we're talking right now without apology and having to go back to the leaders, having to go back to the boss, having to go back to the situation and go, this is what I really meant. all to appease their small self of ego
Or
inside of them.
threats or jealousy or
Oh, man,
doctrine or anything
that's
like that.
hard work.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
And we tried it for years because we loved the leaders, right? We were good friends with them. But at the same time, it was keeping us unauthentic of what we really knew God was
Yeah.
teaching and expanding us in. Because all along, God is stretching and expanding us out. And you start having this relationship with God, right? Outside of the church, where he's testing like Peter with the vision where it drops down with all the unclean animals, right? And God is trying to let him know, don't reject the Gentiles. I'm for them. And he shows him Cornelius and Cornelius' heart. And well, Cornelius is a Gentile. God, I can't touch the unclean, you know?
Oh,
and so when you get outside of the four walls and God starts taking you on this journey of expansion, and so many of us are freaked out, you know, like, we've been told we can't touch this. We've been told we can't listen to this. We've been told we can't, you know, all these kinds of things.
Yeah.
And God softens your heart to say, no, just trust me. I love them. There's truths here. When could I only speak inside a little box, you know, of religion? Yeah, and so God starts really showing you things from his point of view and his heart, and your heart wells and expands, and you see your big family out there, and it's just incredible, you guys. And I know a lot of you are feeling that way. And so again, that's all part of the awakening. It's like my eyes are open. I can see more clearly now. Wow.
Oh, man.
You know, you get so duped. It's like when Paul addressed the Galatians saying, who's bewitched you to return back to these laws and doctrines in this place of safety, you know, of what you knew when you're called into the finished work, into the good news, into that Christ died for all, you know, and all are in him. And so it's amazing.
And you know, guys, think about this for a minute. Please just stop and think about it. I know you have. Okay. Think about this for a minute. 44,000 and growing denominations and different ways of looking at this gospel and
preferences.
Christ and preferences. Okay.
44,000 preferences.
Imagine, that's mind-boggling in itself. But think about if I'm wanting to learn more about God, right? I'm wanting to learn more about Jesus. I'm wanting to learn more about this Bible and gospel. Who's right? Who's right? Should I go to the Episcopalians? Should I go to the Charismatics? Should I go to the Baptists? Should I go to the Catholics? Where should I go?
And then you're told you're not supposed to church jump, and they're trying to find, where's God? Yeah. I'm trying to find him. I'm trying to find that one I met on the Damascus Road, and he's not matching, you know, the ones they're talking about here at all these different denominations.
So it's like, okay, so then what happens is that we get all entrenched in something that kind of matches my ego, because remember, we're always moving in a paradigm at a certain time frame in our life. And so we're going to be gravitating towards what feels good to our conditioning at the time. Yes, there's some spirit in there. You may be led there to learn a few things, one facet of the diamond, then you're led over here to learn a little facet of the diamond. But the truth be told, oftentimes, because we're not living to the center, we're not hearing and listening to the center core of our being of Christ in us and the Spirit, a lot of times is that we listen to programming and we call it God. And then we go walking right in there, and then we get devastated in some way. Somebody hurts us, somebody says the wrong thing. It triggers us, so then we move to the next place. And then we find out, oh, they don't believe anything like the other denomination does. So it's confusing, right? So what you do is, what we would highly suggest, which is what we're going to do the next 45 minutes, is we're going to go into some solutions here and some ideas to help walk you through it. But before we do that, I want to take just a quick break for any of you that need to go potty or need to take a quick break. And we'll be back in just a moment. But we just want to thank you so much for just showing up and being here with us, because it means a lot, not only to us, but even more so to God, because you're willing to go there and be brave and courageous in this next era that we're moving into, that we've already been in, but some of us are moving straight into it. So,
and if you have any questions, comments,
put them
in. We can bring them right back up, you know, for the next portion.
Put them in the comment section.
So good to see you guys. Okay, we'll see you here in just a couple minutes.
We'll be right back. All
Okay.
right, we are back.
Okay, I got a bite to eat or bathroom break or whatever. So,
Yeah, so let's look at some of the comments here. This is what Sean the Mom, Sean says, taking back our original birthright certificates, saturating T Mars, massive blessings, just landed at home. She's been traveling.
hey, Sean the Mom and Rosemary.
Rosemary, thanks for speaking out.
Yeah, she just let us know. I mean, just over
10,000 people a month leaving
the
church.
system.
And really, you know, what we want to say to that is there's a reason this is happening, you guys. It's not that so many, I don't for the life of me believe that 10,000 people a month are so bitter and they're so wounded and they're so Jezebelic that they just left and they're all just wounded listening to the devil kind of people that most leaders would label them as. Okay, not all. There's some great leaders out there, some great
Yes.
hearted people in communities out there. Okay. We're addressing that spirit over
The
them,
control.
the egocentric, religiously ego-eccentric part of them. And really, what it is, George Barna wrote a book years ago did a study about the numbers, and he goes, how can millions of people be deceived that have left an institution? We got to keep in mind, you guys, that we have to come out from underneath of something, just like when they were enslaved, the children of Israel were enslaved in Egypt. They had a false matrix mentality, and that false matrix mentality had them conditioned to believe that they were taken care of, even under those grave conditions of abuse.
Yeah.
They were taken, well, at least we had meat back in Egypt, they say, when they come out and they get the lightness of living out of the spirit for food, and they're like, this manna, where's the meat? That's the first thing the ego is going to say when you're brought out from underneath something, is I want to go back to the meat, because after all, people are labeling me a lone ranger, living rebellious,
your ego
labeling me a Jezzy, and all those things, right? And so God is doing something amazing right now. And he has to purge, come out from among them. He has to purge this institutional mindset that links itself and embeds itself with the egoic structure of our lives that's been conditioned. And it says, I'm not letting you go. I'm not letting you go. Remember what the Pharaoh said is, when Moses came in and said, let my people go, in essence, what he was saying, I'm calling them to live out of their spirit.
Yeah. And
so
God
ego,
saying, let them go.
Ego, let them go. Ego, don't run the show. Ego, you're not in control. And so he's confronting that. And isn't that just like God, to confront our ego all the time in love, all the time? And, God sent, he allowed the plagues and all of that kind of stuff, however that unfolded, right? We don't really know. But the plagues came in because that's what happens when you're living in ego. They just come in and they start surrounding your life. And so the plagues come in, and it's like, well, he could have been wiped out immediately, right? But God is, in his rich mercy, allowed things to go on a while so that he could turn and move out of ego and into his spirit. And this is why he had to call him out into the wilderness to worship him. In other words, to come out and to be one again. You're already one. You're not separate. They were already one in spirit, but he was saying to remember the oneness. That's what worship means, is to remember that you're one.
Yeah. And to actually get to know God, right? Because a lot of them grew up where they didn't even know God at that time. So God brought them away to himself and began to test their hearts and teach them his ways. And oh, I'm telling you, and this is like the Great Awakening right now. We're being pulled out and into a place unknown and being brought back to learn the original matrix, learn your original design, remember where you came from. And so
it's beautiful.
What's amazing, so another thing that happens is your teachers find you. So, here's the thing, right? COVID hits, nobody's allowed to go to church anymore. So you're now like, what am I going to do? Oh, I don't have a teacher teaching me anymore and stuff. And all of a sudden, some friend calls you and says, hey, have you seen this person on YouTube? Man, this is really resonating. You need to check this person out, right?
Yeah.
So sure enough, you're like, oh, I'm not doing anything. I can't go to work right now. And so I'm like, yeah, let me get on there. And so you watch it and something just piques your spirit. And you're like, whoa, I've never heard this before, but man, this is just resonating with me. And so, and then all of a sudden,
be religious.
Yeah, might not even be religious. It's just truth coming at you. And so, and then all of a sudden, right, leads to this spirit-led rabbit trail. And all of a sudden another video pops up. And then you get on this trail following God's leads and prompts. And some of them are like, yeah, right, you would have been told like, well, you can't watch that or you can't check that out. But here you go. You get spiritually curious. And then you're like, you watch it and you're like, oh my gosh, God, you're all over this. I can totally hear you in this. Why was this labeled as dangerous or wrong or something like that? Or you're gonna get deceived. And of course, guys, I'm not saying don't go into the dark arts or any of stuff like that. That's not
Right.
what we're talking about.
That's a no-brainer.
That's a no-brainer. Yes, you want to stay in the light. You want to stay in love. It's simple to discern things, right? Test all things, taste all things. It's like when Jesus addressed his disciples when they're like, "Well, Lord, they're not a part of us." And he's like, "Well, if they're for me, they're not against me."
Nevertheless,
You
Christ is
know?
preached.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But the teachers will come to you and so yeah, you'll get a book dropped in your lap. The trail, the cookie trail, the cookie crumbs start coming into you of awakening. And so it's just amazing. So keep following the trail, you guys. Keep allowing God to just deconstruct these the false matrix out of you that was keeping you so hindered and bound and telling you that's not God and keeping you so small. And so allow God to keep expanding you.
Yeah, and that's really that voice that comes up. Your discerner internally, the Christ in you is going to lead you into truth. Remember what the scripture said. Holy Spirit leads you and guide you into all truth, not just 66 books. Okay, remember this. And it is beautiful as that love story is. Okay, remember this is that the books of the world couldn't contain the acts and the things that Jesus did. Okay, so we have to keep this in mind that he is the word, the living word on the inside of us. And so if he leads you to an iPhone, go buy that iPhone. Well, hold on. Let me find a scripture for that. Hold on. I got to find a scripture. Where is it? There's John something here that says that thou shalt buy an iPhone.
You're gonna give me permission.
Remember that, you guys, and it's just you find truth when somebody says something at work that has nothing to do with what you just read in the Bible. And well, everything has to relate back, everything has to point back, everything has to be confirmed by the Word of God. Well, what about the Word of God in you?
Yeah, or
what about the Christ in you? What about love in you? What about who you're one with?
Before the written word.
Who is that confirming with? Like, he doesn't tell us who to marry in the Bible. Doesn't tell us what car to drive, where to live, all of those things, right?
Right.
So, but what we're trained to do, what we are conditioned to believe is, through fear, by the way, through deep levels of fear, is to stay within those two leather pieces. And if you don't, you are flat out deceived.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times this has happened to people we know and love. It happened to ourselves when somebody's told us this, and we're like, well, hold on. This is truth over here. What about this truth of this new technology over here? No. That iPhone, that internet, boy, that's of the devil. You shouldn't be online right now, John and Amy, because that internet's of the devil.
Oh my God.
It's like,
fear.
Really?
Fear.
This is what Jesus would be on if he was in human skin right here. Might not be on Zoom because of the
he would use the latest technology.
He'd use the latest technology.
Was it talking in parables, I guess, was the latest technology back in the day. That was something we heard that Jesus was using the latest technology back in the day. And he was also speaking Aramaic, the language of the day. This is another thing, guys. We need to be more relevant in our language. He knew Hebrew and things, but he spoke the language of the day. And a lot of times we get so tripped up over our words and we're still talking King James and all these things in the world that our cousins, our brothers and sisters, they can't even understand or relate to us. And because we're too afraid of the language they're using, there's just no connection going on. Where when you allow God to open up your heart and you learn to feel and reverb with each other and hear the heart of humanity and their intentions versus being tripped up over right and wrong words. And again, they're talking about God, calling him the universe. That's demonic, or calling him the divine. Guys, we need to be mature enough to hear their hearts and again, not get tripped up.
So the world is talking about love and they said it's a false love. Look, it's when we zoom out and we expand upwards and we're like, okay, let me look at this from a God perspective internally.
Yeah.
The Christ within. When I look at this, for God so loved the world That's the entirety of humanity. When we begin to allow that to saturate our conditioning, saturate our egoic side of things, the false matrix that's webbed its way into us, and we begin to embrace the entirety of humanity, you will see things much differently than you have been in your own little box. Trust me, it will happen. And then you'll be accused, which is okay. Jesus, you're in good company. He's accused of everything. So it's like they'll accuse you now of being a deceiver, or they'll accuse you of being deceived, or they'll accuse you of being a false prophet. They'll accuse you of this and that. Let them. Who cares? What do you know to be true to you inside of you? I cannot, she cannot go in and talk to you about how your relationship should be with God.
Yeah.
We have no business telling you what your relationship should look like and what it should be with God. I have no business, and neither does anyone else. No one has that right to go in and tell you, well, you should do this, and you should believe this, and you shouldn't believe that way. I don't see Jesus doing that throughout the New Testament. I just don't see it.
No, he was relevant.
He was in the day, in the language of the day, speaking parables of the day
that they could understand.
That they could understand without compromising himself in entrenchment in darkness.
The ego wants to force the old language onto them, saying, you need to say the name of Jesus Christ right. You need to say the name of, it's God Jehovah. You need, and all along, right? Woo! Energetic frequencies. Your energy speaking way louder than all they're feeling is shame. That's all they're hearing and feeling. Shame. They're sure not feeling the fruits of the Spirit. They're sure not feeling that welcoming, loving nature of God the Father. I mean, this is, again, it's all part of the waking up. Our unconscious training is doing this.
Yeah. And so what does it look like in the future? What does it look like for us going into this new year? What does that look like for you being the authentic you? And this is really the meat of the matter here, is what we're talking about, is we're being authentically awakened to be the authentic, real, and genuine us. So what is that for you? What does that look like for you? Maybe you don't know right now, and that's perfectly okay. It's okay to feel the way you're feeling. It's okay to be where you're at right now. You have more than enough grace, more than enough love. So, but what do you feel inside? Are you being are you coming alive in not only the outward things like, oh man, I feel such a desire to paint, or have such a desire to start a business, or such a desire to move forward with this thing I've been dreaming about. That's one way. That's the outward. The inward is, oh man, do you mean to tell me I can be the authentic me? And I'm starting to see it from heaven's perspective. I'm starting to see the inner world of who I genuinely am in my identity. What does that look like? And you're going to find out that you may be put into a trajectory internally and externally that's way different than what you've been doing in the time to come. Why? Because when you're buried underneath of egoic conditioning and your programming, when you're buried under that, you don't know to the degree, like we talked about earlier, you don't know to the degree that you have been buried and you have been covered up, the real you. And when those layers start coming off, then the people start walking away from your life because you no longer do the things that you used to do egoically with them.
Yeah.
And then you start seeing it. Then you start seeing your own authentic nature. And then you're like, whoa, okay, I haven't thought of that in decades, or I've never thought of that. Here's an example. And this is an outward authenticity expression, okay? I was prophesying over somebody in Hawaii, on Maui, years ago, and it was this younger woman. She's probably in her 20s, and I very strongly saw that she played the violin. I said, "Do you play the violin, or you have a burning desire to, don't you?" And she goes, "No." And then the longer she sat there, I saw the layers coming off. I saw the scales falling off. I saw it bubbling up on the inside of the real her. And she goes, wait a minute. Yes, I do. So I have a desire to play the violin. Yes. So what happened is, right before our eyes, we were seeing this transformation of dropping 18 inches down underneath of all of the baggage of the ego's conditioning. And she was dropping in her true self. And then she saw that, wait a minute, I do play the violin. I played it before I even hit my mother's womb. And it's coming back to me now. Oftentimes, what happens when you become an oracle, that's the deeper level of the prophetic. When you become an oracle, you embody in oneness the Christ within. You become one. And when that power comes out of you, when that expression comes out, it's Christ, the Spirit, leading in front of the ego, and then it begins to open up realms of their original design. And that is an oracle.
Yes.
That is an oracle. So when an oracle comes onto the scene, look out, because now you're going to see your own authenticity in a way that you've never seen it before. It goes beneath the layers of the programming, beneath the religious conditioning and the childhood conditioning. It's amazing. It's beautiful.
It is.
And so we have more ascension symptoms here.
Yeah.
If you want to go another one, then we'll just talk about like what do we do in this new year. Well, we've been talking about that, but we're going to go a little bit deeper, go about another 20 minutes. Our goal was a couple hours here, and then we wanted to share something with you at the end of the video that's super exciting for us and what we're going to be doing.
Yeah, so let me just run through a couple more of these, and if you guys are like, oh my gosh, I've so been feeling this, share it with us on here. We're all in this together. So
yes,
another one is your senses will heighten. That's huge, right? You feel more connected to the natural world, right? We become more awakened. We're like, oh, I'm responsible to take care of the economy here. And so we find ourselves actually picking up the bottle plastic on the ground, or realizing, man, I think my diet's changing. I'm becoming more conscious. Maybe, I don't know, guys. It's like, maybe I'm not wired to eat animals because I don't have the nails. I don't have the teeth, the chomp, chomp, chomp. I don't even have the intestinal lining or tract, like the short track of a lion that can even break this down. And God made them as my companions. What am I doing eating them? Wait, maybe that was just a survival, mechanism back in the day just to survive, but now it's become normal. Or just this consciousness, you become more conscious. And don't worry, guys. I mean, we know it can be addicting to eating meat or animal flesh or whatever, because it's a stimulant in there. There's a hormone stimulant that your body gets addicted to, and it's course programming, right? It's a money machine. But anyway, aside from that, you become more conscious. It's like, how can I even kill an animal with my bare hands? Really, that'd be quite a struggle. And how on earth am I supposed to grow one to be eating a full-grown chicken every day, or a cow? Or how do I even break down a cow with these? I mean, it's just you become more conscious and stuff. But aside from survival, right?
Didn't mean to pick on your meat there, guys.
Didn't mean to pick a bone with that one.
Yeah, pick a bone with that one. But you know where we're going. Hey,
but it's true. It's
like, okay if you're not there yet. It's okay. Right.
It's like Justin Abraham said one time at his conference. Here's a note from the future, guys. We all become vegetarians. It was so funny. But anyway, another one is you may have physical symptoms. I don't know about you guys, but I have gone through so many things of, you feel extreme tiredness, or you hit these really, really lows, and you're feeling like you can hear the world, like they're like, I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. And it's like you even get hit with suicidal thoughts, because it's just, man,
how many of you experienced that?
The dark entities, it's like their last ditch effort to try and get you to stay in this low-lying matrix. And so when you're waking up, because you're realizing the power you have now, you're realizing the illusion, right? Like Toto pulling the curtain on, the Wizard of Oz, and Truman realizing, oh my gosh, I've been in a play set this whole time, and Neo on the Matrix. It's just, there's so many symbolisms, right? And so another thing is there's, and of course, you'll feel stuff in your health, your emotions. You'll feel like you have brain fog, because a lot of stuff is moving and shifting around. And a lot of things your ego has anchored into are completely detaching. You're learning how to detach. You're learning how to not have attachment. You're learning that you're fully satisfied within. And where before, when we're in our ego, we are reaching for everything because I'm not okay inside. So I need religion to tell me this. I need a boyfriend or girlfriend to tell me this. I need the best brand. I need all these identities because I don't know myself. And that's it. When you look at sin broken down in the Mirror translation, it means lost identity. It means we've walked off our blueprint. We're out of rhythm. We're out of rhythm with our true design. And my gosh, you guys, there's so much science out there about brain and heart coherence, and when we're out of harmony, how that affects our bodies. So there's a realigning of harmony going on. So when you're going through these physical symptoms, you got a lot of that going on, getting aligned. So just relax and release, right? Relax and release. Allow the process.
R&R.
Welcome it in, right? Yeah. Disassociation, all that. So another one is your outlook on the world feels different. We were talking about that.
Yeah.
You have increased empathy. Again, you have increased empathy for everybody in the world, the animals, nature, everything. You're starting to realize your responsibility. You're taking your responsibility back instead of playing the victim. So yeah, the display of compassion. So it goes on and on and on. But those are some of the symptoms you start walking through.
Have any of you
relate?
Yeah, can you relate? Can anybody relate? Post in the comments, or can you relate? Give us a thumbs up, something, because it's like this. So many times we have gone and we've examined this, and we're like, okay, it's not that I'm doing something so bad here that I deserve what I'm going through. Okay, so that's not it. I mean, it's not like I'm some horrible wicked person that's going out and doing all these things, so all this stuff is coming upon me. That's not it. It can't be it. So then you start ruling things out, and you're like, okay, hold on. If I'm one with everything that is, and I am one with Christ, I'm one with unconditional love, then love has me. And if love has me, then I'm going through this for a reason.
Yeah, paddles up.
And it's for my good. He works all things together for the good, the scripture says. So it's all things working together for my good. And what does that mean? So that goodness can come out, up and out. And where the spirit on the outside, which by the way, science says it's already on the outside. We're just waking up to that fact. It actually sits on the outside. We're inside of our spirit.
Realize.
It goes up to 15-foot range or more. And that's why we say things like, hey, you're in my bubble, or don't stand too close to me, kind of thing, when we're irritated. I don't know about you, but sometimes I've said that. And it's like, well, why? Because you're in my spirit space. Well, imagine if we're fully awakened and we're alive and we're operating out of spirit, how our shadow can be cast on many things to heal people, to set them free, transformation, without the religious stuff attached. It's frequency, it's energy. They've measured all this with machines, guys. Science is amazing. Look at Dr. Joe Dispenza, the work he's doing. They have machines that measure the frequencies. They measure the energetic levels. They measure the spirit part of things, because we're made of energy anyway. And he measures this in rooms, and it's fascinating what happens to brain waves, what happens to the energy levels when meditation or prayer happens, right?
Or when you have no resistance anymore.
No resistance.
The things you've been asking for can come to you like that. And it's just, again, this is another big clearing in the awakening, is all these unconscious beliefs we didn't realize we had that were anchoring us in. And we were wondering why things weren't coming to us. We were unconscious to our thoughts, unconscious to how our body felt, unconscious to our heart's desire, unconscious to all these things. And now we're waking up to our authenticity. We're allowing ourselves to be authentic again. We're allowing ourselves to return back to our original blueprint, return back to what gives us joy, what makes us come alive, and to allow ourselves to release relationships we felt obligated to, or companies, or churches, or whatever, careers. All this stuff is all meant to bring us back into harmony so that our gateways can be fully operating. There's no more blockages. There's no more obstructions anymore. And so remember, guys, at this time, You have full permission to work on yourself and not worry about everybody else, because as you change, again, there is an energetic rippling effect going out that is helping everybody else change, because we're all connected in this tapestry. So as we get rid of the things that are blocking our light or blocking our harmony, it is now letting energy and power surge out to others that now helps them wake up. So it's just amazing, isn't it? The freedom.
When I've often said this, and it just ignites me and really causes me to almost want to weep because of homesickness. But home walked by. When Jesus walked by the disciples, they saw home walking by. They saw the original blueprint of who they were walking by. And that's why their spirit leapt within them and they could run after the blueprint, run after that which they knew to be home. That was home. That was their home. When home walked by, everything changed. Home is walking by us right now, guys. It's not only walking by us, but home is in us. Home is where the heart is, and heart is where home is, and home is in us, and home is the city set on a hill, pulsating the light to cast forth its light in our egocentric realm in order to disperse the dark, shadowy things and to disperse that leadership of ego so that we can be the cities truly set on a hill without the religious junk attached, so that we can be the living, moving, breathing organism of unconditional love, to where it's relatable and people can see their own original design and blueprint. That's where we are. That's where we're going. That's what we're expanding into. 2024 is going to be an epic year of authenticity. We're going to see more and more layers come off of
You're allowed to be authentic.
Yeah, more and more layers come off of society. Institutions are crumbling, and that's a very good thing. Yes, it's painful at first, but they are absolutely crumbling, disintegrating, falling. The false matrix is falling, and so that the real blueprint and matrix can shine and come forth and be known and shown. And this is why many are confused by what's happening. They're like, why are all my people leaving my church?
Right.
Why are all these
a month, you guys, in the US?
That's the US alone. And if those numbers are accurate, wow, that's a lot. That's a lot. And so it's for a reason, and we're giving voice to some of that reason. We just have a part of this. We just see in part. We have a part of what may be happening. But we know this to be true inside of us, and there's a price to be paid. There's a price to be paid in getting persecuted, which you become numb to after a while, because when you live out of your spirit, when you start, the only reason why it would affect you is because you're still embedded in ego. That's the only reason why any criticism or any narcissistic persecution would affect you, is because you're still very much embedded in egocentric thinking.
Well, your spirit has compassion.
Your spirit has compassion. It'll try to say, oh, you know what? They must be sending love. They must be miserable with all of that stuff. So you just send love back, right? But where we're headed is absolutely wonderful. It's beautiful. It's getting better all the time. Don't believe the naysayers. Don't believe the negative Nellies.
It is the shift.
It's getting better all the time. It's getting better all the time.
Yeah.
And the religion will tell you otherwise. They're going to double down. Don't worry about that. Don't be concerned about the doubling down, because it's happening all over the place. They're like, oh, those people are leaving and they're being deceived by the masses.
No.
The love of many will grow cold.
Mm-hmm.
Well, did you ever think that could be the religious love of many will grow cold, so that the real and the true can be seen and known?
Yeah.
So think about those things. And I just want to go in for the last few minutes here. We'll share about what we're going to be doing and what we need your help with. If you have to join in with us and partner with us, but also you just have a couple of words for some people. Okay. So I want to release those I've been pondering. There's somebody listening right now, and your spirit is leaping inside. You're going, yes, but.
Ooh.
So just know that the but,
pedal brake, pedal,
the pedal brake, the
pedal
but
brake.
is the ego saying but. In any way, shape, or form, it is with God, nothing's impossible. To him who believes, nothing's impossible. Remember that your belief system is being challenged right now. The belief that you've had in propping up ego It is waning. It is crumbling. So I just want to encourage you, whoever that is, when you have the yeah, but rise up within you several times throughout this cast, just know that that is self-awareness, realizing that you have a yeah, but, and that's beautiful. You're seeing it for what it is. Now let the yeah, but fall away. Just let it fall away and
You're allowed
receive.
to let go of
You're
it.
allowed to let go of it. Just receive the bigness of the spirit of who you are.
Yes.
And there's somebody else that you're ready to make a transition. I'm just saying there's a transition. There's a car. There's a moving truck. There's a moving van, and there's a crossroads ahead of you, and you're like, which direction? Practice this. I would encourage you, practice. I'm hearing practice presence. Practice sitting still and not saying anything, but just receiving in silence or with some light music on. Practice that daily, and you're going to know which way to move. There's two equal places you could go down, one or the other, and neither one of them's wrong. Neither one of them is the wrong way. But so that you'll know with accuracy, just sit and allow and watch what comes up from the inside and bypasses the ego, because the ego wants to go one way, right? The ego says, well, this is my safety. Ego always wants to find safety somewhere outside of the safety. The only real safety we have is the Christ within, a safe place. It's always safe. But it always wants to look for safety on the outside. Just let that wane, let that drop off, and then you'll know which direction to go in. Yeah, that's amazing. There's
yeah, really good.
Let's see if there's anything else for somebody that's bubbling up right now.
Hey, Chris Perry, sending you love.
Hey guys. Yeah. Oh, okay. Here's a big one. You have felt like you've lost your voice, meaning you've lost your influence. And I'm hearing and seeing that is a God-led thing, because it's been built upon programming and conditioning. It's been built upon those structures. Allow that to dissipate, as painful as it is. Allow just the real you to come up. Allow through sitting in quietness. Allow by receiving that part of you to fall off and fall away and to be integrated and healed, that ego part. And then the real influence of who you authentically are is going to be known and shown. In fact, you're going to be called upon over the next 3 months. I saw by the end of March, because you're really understanding this and you're getting this, and it's not going to take you long because you're quick to make the transition inside and just say, go, okay, I see it now. I got it. Your voice is going to, the authentic voice, the real you, is going to come back stronger than ever, because now you're vulnerable enough to go there in telling your story, in telling the truth without the edge on you, without the edge of your ego trying to force something and make a point like many in religion do, right? They look at personality, and this has happened to you. They look at your personality because it is strong. Your personality is bold. It is brave. And they look at that as if it was the anointing, but it's not. That's your ego talking. And that's okay. It's no condemnation here. Just know that your influence comes back stronger when it's in spirit. In spirit. So just remember that by the end of March, there's something going to happen in the three-month phase here, and then you'll be called upon to release that, whatever it is that you're called upon to do. Somebody else, you're actively involved in ministry, and it's been so much a part of your life that you don't really know what to do with it anymore. And you're like, I love what you're saying, but I just can't let go of the reins of this because people are dependent on me.
This will cost me too much.
This will cost me too much. I'm just hearing and sensing that God is saying to you that there's a greater price to pay if you stay there. If you do not allow yourself to move into your own authenticity and let the ceiling be shattered over you, because the sky is the limit. There is way more unlimited capacity within you. Your gifting is bigger than that ceiling. And that's coming from the Spirit of God. That your call, your gifting, your cluster, your who you are, just who you are in your own authentic nature, aside from the gifts, is bigger than that glass ceiling that they put over you. Remember, it's fake glass.
And easier.
Let
And
it shatter.
easier than you're having to do. Easier, where you're not going to have all the burnout and just trying to keep it revved up, keep it revved up, keep it revved up. I just see you transitioning when you detach from this heavy armor, detach from this heavy role, even though it's giving you prestige and all this kind of stuff. I just saw you coming out into the fields like Sound of Music and just twirling and just feeling liberated. I just keep hearing the sound of birds. I just keep hearing them singing and chirping, singing and chirping, and it is just rejuvenating your whole being like nobody's business. It's like you're being allowed to come back to your childlike innocence and femininity instead of it having to be the warrior, being known as the warrior, known as this intercessor, and you're just being allowed to be you and come back. And I see the artist coming back to you. I see these gifts being handed back to you that were put aside because they weren't as powerful, thought of as powerful or as important. And I just see this femininity qualities and the arts and the sensitivity being presented back to you. And it's just like wrapping you like a warm blanket and bringing so much healing to you. And you're just back out in nature. And again, just the birds, something about the birds just so ministering to you and running alongside you like goodness and mercy, So,
man, I tell you what, and one last thing here before we mention an important announcement here as well is this is for somebody. I said this to somebody else, but it's very much for you. Money comes riding in on the frequency of joy. It comes magnetically flying in and floating in on the frequency of joy. Remember that.
Yeah.
Just remember that. It'll come effortlessly. Okay, so thank you guys once again for watching.
555 right now.
555. Good time. We want to mention that we're going to continue to do things like this throughout 2024. However, they're going to be in our Paddles Up Pass. And we're excited about this because we're going to go deep with questions and answers. We're going to have interactions like this. This is an example, kind of a template, a little bit of what we'll be entering into, but even more so, we'll do a deeper dive. We're going to do some coaching in there. We're going to be, you're going to have access to the weekly lives, just the weekly lives that we'll do. We're not going to be doing this anywhere else. Not like this. This is a foretaste of what we're going to be doing in 2024 and beyond. Why? Because we want, one of the reasons that we'll just be totally forthright and authentic in this is that oftentimes, and there is a price to that, there is a cost, but it's an investment. Trust me, you're going to get years worth of value and wisdom that we have to offer behind the scenes. And it's not much, you guys. It's very minimal for the value that we're going to give cost-wise. It's on our site, paddlesup.fun. You'll see it right there on the main page. You'll see the Paddles Up Pass. We encourage you to join that because calls like this, interactive live calls, will just be in there behind the scenes. And you're thinking, you may be thinking, why? Well, one of the reasons why we told you why. Also, when you do things like this, oftentimes you get this blowback from unnecessary
out in public,
unnecessary persecution and things that we just don't have time for. And frankly, I don't have the energy for. And so we want people that really want to join in and go deep dives. You'll get discounts on our products and things that come out in the future, books and things like that, and live in-person events, which we'll do at some point in the future. But it's really for you to take a deep dive with us and go into this awakening that we're in, and then
really
we can help
have
the conversation around it in a place of safety. We need that, you guys, and
you need it,
and
right?
you need that, and what it'll do is it'll help fuel and fund as well what we're doing in the earth, because this is what we're doing aside from. So if you want to sign up for that, go ahead and join that. Aside from what we're going to be, we've been invited as well is to go back on to Maui where it's home for us. We're not currently there. We are in Oregon visiting family and really just in a transitional point ourselves. But Maui is home for us. We've been invited by the Red Cross to go and work with them in disaster relief. So we're going to be heading over there the first week of January, but we need your help if you feel
You want to
prompted
join
to.
us
You want to join
in
in with
helping
us to help fund and fuel some of that
with
venture,
transition.
that transition. And with housing is scarce over there, but not, it's not a challenge for God. But we want to be wise and smart about this. And so if you feel
Shipping our car,
shipping all of that. So if you feel led to give, we do have a GoFundMe type of site that will be on Facebook underneath this video. We'll post the link again, but it's on our page there. And it's also on our site in the contact us section, but we'll pop another link on here to show you that. So again, we're not begging for anything. We just
no,
want
we
you to
want
partner,
to create the
join,
platform. Yeah, if you guys
create a
want to join
platform.
with us to be the hands and feet and just
Yeah,
sending love to the people there, and then
that's
just
exactly right.
positioning us there, and then you guys along with us, and we'll be taking videos and
Videos
everything,
showing
clips, showing
you
it,
what's
the
going on in the
stories
ground.
happening and all that as well. So I mean,
Yeah.
we so appreciate it. We appreciate you guys always anyway, but we just wanted to create that as well. And then again too, with the Paddles Up Pass, we again want to have this platform where we can have the conversation, create it for you guys so you are in a safe place to kind of ask, like, when you're transitioning, and we want to be that bridge for you guys of support, because we know how hard it was when we were waking up, coming out of
brutal.
the false matrix of things. And again, you face so much confusion and so much different doctrine flying at you, and you don't feel like you're allowed to ask these questions. And so this is a safe place to actually go there. And the same with what's happening now. What does the church look like? What does relationship with God look like? What does the interaction look like with humanity? And just
What's
being
the
that
awakening about? What does it look like currently?
So to have that conversation, and then also you know us over the years, we are so passionate about helping people get into alignment to thrive. And so we want to have special coaching groups on relationships, on health, on business, workplace, career kind of stuff like that, because we really are coming into this full new one man of wholeness. And so we can't just be good in one area over here while the rest of it's just sinking on this side. So we want to be that support of just helping in these areas, so we're thriving as a fully functioning, healthy, well-being person.
Yeah.
So
we'll also have special calls, live video calls like this, where we call them launch it calls. A couple of you know about this. And launch it calls are these amazing scenarios that take place where we go in and we take somebody and we bring them up on screen, to somebody that is actually engaging in their passion, moving forward in an entrepreneurial creative idea, whatever their love and their passion is, a business idea, and they're in the beginning phases or in the middle phases, but they're looking for the next step, whether it's to be sourced or funded. And then we present it to the people that are watching, and it never fails that somebody watching has another key or a puzzle or a piece or a source for that person in their next step. And so they're pretty amazing calls. We'll be doing those. We're talking about relationships a lot.
Yeah, the conscious man,
marriage,
the conscious woman,
singles, marriage. So that'll all be in the Paddles Up Pass. Go to paddlesup.fun. You'll see it on the front. Go ahead and join when you feel led to. If you feel a prompting to join, sign up, and you'll see there's a little bit of material in there now, but there'll be a whole lot more going forward.
As
right,
we're all building and
area.
growing together, but
Building and growing together.
definitely want to be doing the weekly calls with you guys for sure. And we'll have some, like we did before, in Hawaii, where we do Church on the Rocks, we do some just morning little snippets there of lives, but the nitty-gritty conversations where you guys have a chance to, where we can really discuss things, will be in the Paddles Up Pass, as well as all those building blocks we mentioned. So anyway, we're all, that it's community, we're coming together as family, and it's a safe place for us growing in the now. So anyway, thanks so much, you guys.
Well, we love you. Thank you for the comments, the feedback, the encouragement,
the support,
all of it. We just really appreciate who you are.
Being on the journey with us.
Yeah, we look forward to the next time, and to seeing you in person one day. And
in Maui, eh?
Yeah. Yeah, so we're really excited about that. We leave probably around the 3rd or so to fly out. So all this month, um, you can give on that link whenever you feel prompted to, and we sure appreciate it. And just thank you for doing that. And then we are championing you. We're always cheering you on, and we just love the interaction. And hey, for all those, if we don't talk to you again before Christmas, have a wonderful time.
Yes.
If you feel like you're going to
Sending you
engage in any
love.
kind of weird relational thing with family, back up and remember what we said in this video.
Paddles up.
Paddles up.
Relax
back
and
up.
release.
Relax and release.
They're allowed to be that way.
And everything will be okay. Don't try to rescue them. Just let them be that way. Let them have their own journey and just love on them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Love you all.
So thank you so
good
much.
To see you. Michelle, Rich, Amber, all you guys, Miss Perry, Rosemary, everyone. All right. Keep in touch and we will do the same. Love you guys.
Love you.